Question for you. Do you think your brand or business or agency is memorable? Like truly memorable? It's a tough question to answer, right? But it's super important if we want our businesses and our brands and our agencies to be successful. That is what we're going to look at and discuss in this episode of Ask Aaron. Let's get into it. Okay, so look, whatever your brand or business, whatever sector or industry you're in, the reality is it's going to be competitive, right? Every industry these days is seemingly super competitive. And it's a really interesting sort of topic, this one. When you start to think about, well, are we memorable? What are we memorable? What are we famous for? What are we known for? One of the things that prompted this episode of Ask Aaron is it's a discussion we've had and have regularly here at Evergreen, is we ask ourselves, what are we memorable for? What are we famous for? And what I want to task and sort of challenge anyone and everyone who watches this video is ask yourself, what are you memorable for? Are you memorable? What are you known for? As a business, as a brand, what are you known for? What are you famous for? Things to think about are, how are you perceived in the market, right? How are you perceived among your competitors? How do you stack up against your competitors? Have you ever asked yourself how what makes you special? What makes you unique versus the competition? And it's only when you really start to sort of unpick the layers of the onion, when you start to think about, as a brand, we do X, or we provide Y service, or we do this, or this is our agency, this is what we do. But actually, when you start to really think about, we do this service, or we make this product, or we provide this solution, but so do 101 other people that do the same thing. So what makes us special? What makes us unique? What makes us memorable? And I think that's a really interesting, and I see lots of people, I'm part of lots of conversations, and we have, I have these conversations regularly. I'll give you an example, and I'll explain what I think and hope is makes Evergreen memorable. You might agree, you might disagree, but this is our perception and how we take this. And hopefully it'll give us an example for you, and then you can take this back into your teams and start thinking, well, what makes us memorable? What makes us special? How are we perceived in the market? How do we stack up against our competitors? So my perception, my sort of thoughts and feelings of this is, when I think, well, what makes Evergreen memorable? I sort of, the obvious stuff comes to mind, right? Evergreen, yes, we provide SEO services, we provide paid media services, we have a very unique way of approaching those services, as far as I'm concerned, certainly if I compare how we work versus other agencies. But I don't really think that makes us that memorable, to be really honest. We are, if you look at the labeling, businesses, brands, agencies, everyone loves to put a label on something. So when you put a label on something, you look at it and you go, okay, we're Evergreen, okay, we're a digital marketing agency. Great. We specialize in e-commerce. Okay, good. That's good. So do 101 other agencies. So it doesn't really make us memorable. Maybe a little bit, but I don't think enough. And I don't ever sit on my laurels and think, oh, well, we're e-commerce specialists, that's good enough. Or, oh, well, we provide digital marketing, we're not a full service agency. That's not good enough. I don't think it's good enough to even say we specialize in SEO or paid media, because there are literally thousands of other agencies that do the same stuff. So for me, and for the team here, when we discuss and look at, well, what makes us memorable, we're not one of these agencies, and for some of you watching this, you'll be able to relate to this, we're not, a lot of agencies, to try and make themselves memorable, you can be really confrontational, you can be really controversial is the word I'm looking for. You can be really outlandish, you can really put yourself out there and say controversial things to evoke a reaction. We're not like that. You can, be very anti-establishment, in your approach, in the product you've brought to market or the service you provide. Again, we're not really like that. So you start to think, well, what does make Evergreen stand out? Or this is what we discuss internally, is, well, what makes our brand stand out? And for me, what we've come back to time and time again, and we've looked at this and said, well, do we need to be more memorable, or what else could we do? And what you've got to do when trying to think what your brand is memorable for is be honest. You can't fake it. You can't just try and put a front or a facade on and just go, yeah, we'll be memorable for this, if it's not genuine, if it's not true. So for me, I think, and we've discussed this internally, what we think makes us memorable, frankly, is our people and our culture. I've said to the team many a time that what I feel makes Evergreen special, and the environment we've created, is one where it's all about the people. The SEO, the paid media, the services we provide, the clients we work with, that is what pays the bills. We enjoy doing it, we love doing it. But I think what makes us memorable among clients, among partners, among prospects, is that the perception of Evergreen is that we are very much a people organization. We're very much about the people. You know, if you followed me, if you know me, if you've seen any of my stuff, you will know that I love to put my team, my people on a pedestal. I love to shout about them. I like to, really champion them and sort of be their hype man, and I think that's really important. And I think that, and the culture we've built, the fact that we have an office-based company culture, I've been very insistent on wanting that, and I don't mandate it, but I've really encouraged that. I think it's important that we bring a team together, and I think that creates, if you do it with consistency, I think it creates a perception that you're a very close-knit team. It's a very loyal team, and it's one where the churn of people is minimal compared to other agencies. And I think when you start to look at all of these elements, when it's about the people and the culture and the dynamic within the thing, because any service-based businesses, ultimately, regardless of the service, it's about the people, right? And I think that is what makes us memorable. And when I talk to prospects and I say, well, how did you hear about Evergreen? How did, what made us, you send us that RFP, or, why are you interested in partnering with us? Time and time again, it comes back to, we feel like we know, we know you, we feel like we trust you. They have a confidence that they know that the people they're going to work with are going to be here a year from now and 2 years from now, because we've got a strong bond and a strong relationship with our team. And, that is really good, because typically agencies specifically have a very high churn of team members, and we don't have that because of the strong bond we have. And I think that is what makes us memorable. And we've had those discussions internally where is there anything else that we are doing or we're not doing or not capitalizing on? And time again, it comes back to, no, what makes us memorable is our people. It's our culture. It's the dynamic we have within the people within our organization. And I therefore think that is what makes us memorable. And it's what kind of provides a bit of a warm hug to a prospect. If you're a brand, and you're talking to multiple agencies in my world, and Evergreen's one of the agencies you're talking to, I know and I'm fairly confident that one of the things that will probably give us maybe a competitive edge, maybe not, but it will certainly make us memorable, is when you think of Evergreen, you'll hopefully, my hope, my aim, my aspiration is you get a bit of a warm, fuzzy feeling of like, do you know what? They do this digital marketing stuff and they're really good at it, but actually they're really lovely people and they've got a really strong bond, and there's a vibrancy and an energy and an enthusiasm for within Evergreen, and that will filter in and flow through into my brand, and there's an excitement, and I think that is key, and I think that's one of the things that makes us memorable, and it's certainly what helps us stand out in an incredibly crowded space. There are so many digital marketing agents out there. There are so many agencies that provide SEO and paid media and, that specialize in e-commerce. I know that doesn't, stand us out in a crowded place. I'm not naive enough to think that, we're e-commerce, suddenly we're the only one. Absolutely not. It's those little things. And it'll be different for you. And that's for me how I perceive, and I hope, and we're working towards, is that what makes Evergreen memorable. It's not the most revolutionary thing in the world, but it's we want to be known and recognized and perceived as being a great digital marketing agency that really do their stuff, and they know what they do and who they do it for and the results they get. But they're also just really lovely people, and that gives us a warm, fuzzy feeling. And so, do you know what? I just want to work with them because I just want to see that energy, that vibrancy, that excitement. I want that in my brand or my business. And I think that's what gives us a bit of a competitive edge sometimes, and it's also what makes us memorable. So I guess the question for you now is, what is it that makes you memorable? Are you memorable? Do you think you're doing a good job at being memorable? Yes or no? And essentially, if yes, you do, then, you think, yeah, do you know what? I do think we're memorable, or I think we're on the right track for being memorable, and you're happy with what you're memorable for, right? And if you're not sure, go and ask your peers, ask your team, ask those around you, partners, suppliers, people you know and trust you already work with. How do you perceive us? What do you think we're known for? What do you think of when you think of our brand, of our business? We've done that. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And that feedback that I've shared with you and what Evergreen is, that is the feedback we get is, it's a really lovely team, very close-knit team, a very strong bond, people that really are real brand advocates, etc., etc. So what is the perception within your brand? Are you happy with it? If you are, how can you enhance it? How can you leverage it? Once you're mindful of these things and you're mindful of, we are memorable for X, How can you capitalize on it without forcing it, but how can you make that just work a little bit harder for you? Because it will give you that competitive edge, it will stand you out. And crucially, on the flip side of that coin, if it's something that you're not happy with, you think, well, right now the perception is this, or, we're memorable, but not for something I want us to be memorable for. It doesn't quite align to our values or our mission statement as a business or as a brand, as an agency. If you're not happy, then what you need to be thinking is, well, how do we change this? What do we want to be memorable for? And then what can we put in place to just start chipping away? It won't be an overnight thing, because, perception takes consistency. That how you are perceived in the market, how you are seen among your peers, your competitors, that takes consistency. That's not something you can fake, nor can you change it overnight. But you can just start chipping at it once you're aware of it. So it's a really interesting topic, this one. It's something we come back to time and time again, of just that, how are we perceived and are we memorable to those that we want to be memorable to, which is our peers, which is our prospective clients, which is our existing clients. How do they perceive us? So just a little insight into some of the conversations we have here. Hopefully it might be useful. It might just get the cogs turning in your mind in terms of, what are we doing? What aren't we doing? Are we mindful enough of this? Are we not? So there's the question. What makes a brand memorable? It's going to be different. The answer is going to be different for every single brand. And if it's not something that you are asking and you're in a competitive industry, regardless of what your business or your brand or your agency does, something to think about. Hope you found it useful. If you haven't already, do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got loads of videos we're working on, loads coming soon, and we'll see you on the next one. All the best. Take care.